Yeah, we were talking about River of Flowers album from 2010. One track I really like on this album is called The Wilson Home for Crippled Children. Uh, what can you tell me about that track?
When I was a child, from about the age of 6, I was diagnosed with a bone disease, a hip disease in my hips called Perthes disease. And after a year or so of sort of going to school and being on crutches and a wheelchair, I developed it in 2 hips. I had it in one hip and then the second hip. And then after that, I had to go to a special children's hospital, a facility in Auckland called the Wilson Home for Crippled Children. So I spent a year and a half there. On my back on a frame that my body was attached to, and I had my legs splayed out so that the hips would hopefully grow in a natural way over over a year and a half. And so it was a big experience for me, not being in a normal a normal sort of ambulant kid running around and being in a hospital. So that song is just really about that. It's all about the memories of being at the Wilson home. And it was a beautiful old house. It was up on the hill and on the north shore of Auckland. And you could look out and you could see the sort of the water of the harbour, and there was a Rangitoto Island, which is a volcanic island in Auckland out in the bay. Auckland's very volcanic, so you've got these little volcanic plugs everywhere, and further over another volcanic sort of hill was the Auckland Museum, shining like a diamond, which is another line from the song. But yeah, that's a song very evocative about New Zealand. And I think that album, River of Flowers, we made it shortly after our mother had passed away. Our dad died 6 or 7 years before that. So in a way, that was tying up a lot of those kind of family and childhood memories about being, brought up in New Zealand, and Great South Road, and Wilson Home with a sort of, there's another song in there called Manchester that Reg wrote about our mother, who was from Manchester in Northern England. So there was a very sort of personal stories, wired through that album.
Do you think your songs are always personal, or is this a particular personal album?
Oh, I mean, well, that album is probably a little more personal. I mean, we sort of, I mean, I write some personal songs that some with some autobiographical elements, and so does Peter, and we also write songs about other people and just songs that are commenting on stuff in the world, or, opinions you have about various things.
Yeah. The next album was a double one, Medicated Spirits. Was it always going to be a double album?
No, not originally, but we just seem to have so many songs that in the end we thought, well, it's better be a double album.
Because normally when you make an album, we do often have 1 or 2 songs that we are extra, or just seem like a bit too many to squeeze onto one album. It just seems like there's a sort of a point where around about 14 songs where that's about the limit, that testing people's patience. But we had those extra batch of songs on that one, so we thought, oh well, let's do a double album. We've never done that before in our life, so give us a chance to make one. And we did the vinyl, the gatefold vinyl version with slip-in coloured sleeves. We went overboard with that album, just trying to make it feel like one of those double albums you would have had from the 60s or 70s. But I always loved that when you could open an album up and see the artwork spread out in front of you. And again, going back to that thing about the tactile thing of an album. But yeah, but and there's a couple of instrumentals in there, which was something we just repeated with Shadowland. We've got 2 instrumentals in there. We sort of jam a lot, and we play a lot of sort of fairly open-ended stuff that may or may not end up inside songs. So we could almost actually just make an album of instrumentals, which I sort of wouldn't mind doing, actually. Maybe we'll do that next time.
one song on this album is about other musical favorites of mine, and it's called Ray Davies and the Kinks. So what can you say about this song?
Well, again, it's it's describing a real situation. We were driving down to a festival in Victoria called the Apollo Bay Festival, and we were listening to Kinks songs in the car, and we also again we actually had the album, or probably the CD cover, and some of the it was written by a guy called Glenn A. Baker, who's a very famous sort of rock and roll journalist in Australia, and he'd written the liner notes, and he was talking about them as being songs of melancholy and disappointment. That was one of his comments, and we just thought, well, I thought that was a funny comment. So, we're big fans of the Kinks ever since hearing their songs on the radio in the '60s when I was a teenager, and Ray's just a great songwriter, and so it's basically, it's about listening to the songs and reading the liner notes and talking about the subject matter in his songs, basically.
Such a great band, the Kinks. One of those bands that really, one of the great songwriting bands of all time, really. There's so many good songs that Ray Davies wrote. But we actually sent the record to his management. Someone knew someone who could, so a friend of a friend. So we sent it out to him to see if he would listen to it or comment on it. But we never got any response. So who knows if he heard it or if he probably didn't like it.
No, we never heard anything back. Maybe he didn't like it. I mean, he's a slightly sort of cranky sort of guy, from what that's the impression you get from reading interviews with him and seeing him, talking in interviews. He has a few sort of, strange kind of qualities.
I think the least he could do is record a song called Dog Trumpet.
Good idea.
Do you still consider yourself fans of music? Do you buy records and discover new groups and so on?
Well, I don't. So, as I said, I don't so much buy records anymore. But one thing I do, if I read reviews, or read a newspaper article that talks about a song, well, then I'll just get Google to play it. So I kind of, it's more just listening to songs that you tell the Google machine to play back, rather than going out, hanging around a record shop and buying an actual record for me.
Plus, we've got friends who make records. I've got a couple of friends who made some great records in Australia. Jen Clower and Courtney Barnett. You probably know about Courtney Barnett. She's doing pretty well, but they're mates of ours. They both live in Melbourne, but both make really good records. Jen Clower makes great records. She's a Kiwi girl.
I've heard her.
She's really good. She's got a really good new record about to come out, actually.
There's also an interesting New Zealand woman called Aldous Harding whose songs I like as well. Have you heard her?
Yeah, I'm seeing her in concert in April.
Oh, right. Good, right.
Yeah, no, she's really good.
I haven't seen her play live, but I've listened to her records, and they're really interesting, unusual.
One thing I like about your albums being released on vinyl by Demon Music Group is that I could order them in at a local record store and go to a record store in Stockholm and buy a Dog Trumpet album. That was really nice. I mean, it's
very
good
old school.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to order online as well, but just to go into a physical record store and pick up Dog Trumpet records, that was fabulous.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm getting deja vu, back to when I was a teenager and, going into the local record shop and buying records and, and just going through the records and sort of thinking, oh, that looks nice. And there's just something about, that physicality of it. It's like being in a bookshop, it is a very different experience to just looking online and ordering on your computer.
And speaking of Demon Music Group, which is based in the UK, what has the response been from the UK about the Dog Trumpet albums?
We're not too sure. we haven't heard.
Well, I mean,
hear
we have heard from the people at Demon have been very enthusiastic and very sort of supportive, and they did a great job of of reissuing all those CDs on vinyl and doing the colored vinyl and getting the album artwork and the sleeves done properly, and really paying a lot of attention to the details. So we've been very happy with what they've done, but we haven't heard a great deal else from other people outside the record company in England.
It's hard to know if we have enough support to actually go and tour in the UK, but it would be a nice idea. It'd be nice to go to Europe actually and play. And we've never been to Sweden. We've never played there, so that'd be good.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We could play at your local record shop.
Yeah, that would be great. If you do come to Europe, I will come to a gig. I promise.
Great.
We'll put your name on.
Thank you. And the album before Shadowland was, of course, this one, Great South Road, which came out just as a pandemic hit the world. It must have been a difficult time for you as musicians.
Well,
it was bad timing.
We were about to release it, and things were, getting a bit alarming, and COVID was on the news every day, and then suddenly they started shutting down airports, and Australia sort of shut itself off from the rest of the world, and even the states of Australia were shutting themselves off from each other. So we had a lot of gigs booked for that album, for the release of that album, and we had to think, oh well, we'll cancel all of those, and will we put the album out? Should we just wait this out and put it out when the coast is clear? But in a way, it was good that we didn't. Well, lucky we didn't, because we didn't have any idea that it was going to go on for 2 years. I thought the shutdowns might go on for a few weeks, and they'd get the painful part out of the way, and we'd go back to normal. But no, it was good, and in a way we adjusted to it like every other musician did, and we did a lot more. We did online things. We did all those Facebook shows, the two of us, and I think it was good. We actually probably got to play to a lot more people and a lot more places than we would have done had we just done it the conventional way.
Do you think you'll do any Facebook shows this time around?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it was very enjoyable, playing all those old songs that we hadn't from the Mentals and early Dog Trumpet songs that we hadn't played for years, or some that we probably hadn't played live at all, actually. So it was great doing that. It was actually quite. It was more stressful than playing live in a way, just because the fact that you couldn't see the audience, and you knew that any mistakes you made would be up there forever. And it was stressful for Peter and his wife Susan, because they were operating she was filming it, and just getting the machinery and to work, and the technology to not go haywire was kind of quite nerve-wracking.
And it was very low tech, lo-fi kind of production, just really sitting in the room that I'm in right now. We were just playing in here, and had a couple of little practice amps out in the hallway at the side of the room, at the side of the bedroom, and it was a bit like, hope this sounds okay out there, because it was kind of like just doing a rehearsal together in a room, and just and you're playing anonymously to this playing to an invisible crowd, not anonymously, but once you get used to that, it was okay. It was pretty good, and they seemed to go well. We got a lot of good responses. So yeah, in a way, it's probably something that a lot of musicians continue to
do. And tomorrow is your album launch in Merrickville. I've read that you will play 2 sets. Can you elaborate? What will it be like?
Well, we're going to play at least 4 songs off the new album. Hopefully, 1 or 2 extra maybe, and plus we'll play a couple of our favourite covers, and probably a sort of a reasonably selection of the more popular live tunes that we've been playing recently.
Yeah, we've got a lot of songs over those albums, so it's just a matter of putting it together. 2 sets. I mean, look, we could probably do 5 sets. We've got a lot of songs there, but I don't think our drummer would be too happy if we made him play a 4th and a 5th set. It's good to have the band out and playing again, though. It's a good band. We did do it. We haven't played for a few weeks, but we're just starting to feel like we're getting back into being a live band, and what that feels like. And it's good because you adapt the songs quite a lot. Some of them sound like the record, and some of them are quite different renditions. And it's good. It's sort of like being in. I don't know, it's like playing. To me, it's a bit like playing jazz some of the time, because you just sort of you can go off the beat, off the off the formula of the song, and just see where it goes. But playing live is great. Hopefully we'll have a good turn up, and it'll be a good night.
And in February you will tour in Australia. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah. Oh, yes and no. We're also quite lazy too. We quite enjoy it. I love making records. It's a nice sort of easy pattern. You just do it in the daytime, and then you have dinner, and you can go to bed early. So going back into playing live again, you just got to readjust to staying up late and try not to play up too much.
Yeah, the actual playing is always the most enjoyable part, but I'm not so keen on the traveling and the waiting around and lugging gear, and when you fly to another city in Australia too, you've usually got to hire gear and pick it up and drop it off. And we don't have a road crew, so we pretty much do all of that ourselves. So it has its stressful aspects, but the actual playing is really enjoyable.
Do you have any?
We've got a good. I was just say, pretty good band too. Bernie Hayes on bass and Jimmy Elliott on drums. It's they're really good players, and it's always enjoyable. When we get going and playing with those guys. So it's just unusual that we're getting back to doing it again. Because we've got so used to that whole COVID thing of expecting things to be cancelled, which they were over and over. Even when we started to rebook gigs, then half the time you just have to sort of cancel yet again because the venue would be shut down, or someone would get COVID, or I mean, the trouble is this COVID's still going. I don't know what it's like in Sweden, but it still seems to be affecting the way things are operating at the moment.
Yeah, here too. Do you have a favorite venue that you are looking forward to on the upcoming tour?
Well, the venue we're playing at tomorrow is called the Great Club, and we haven't played there before, but everyone says it is a great club, as the name suggests. Apart from that, our favourite places. I mean, we like playing at places like the Petersham Bowlo, which is a bowling club in the inner city. We like playing at the Clovelly Bowling Club, which is another nice venue.
In fact, Marrickville's probably the one suburb in Sydney where most of the venues are all clustered. It's got about 8 venues in Marrickville, so which is unusual.
Django Bar is another good one we like, which is again in Marrickville, below Camelot, which is another venue as well. The two venues are run by the same people, I think, but there's one is on one floor and the other one's on a different floor.
Going back to earlier Dog Trumpet records, you released a couple of EPs, Kiss a Gun Down and Strange Brew. Will they be issued on vinyl as well, perhaps?
No, they haven't been, but I'm surprised you managed to get hold of the Strange Brew album. That's a rare one.
EP?
Is it?
Yep.
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, we probably didn't make that many of those at the time, and going back a long time, that's 1994 or something like that. So right back in early Dog Trumpet. I think it was just after. What did we do first? Kiss a Gun Down, or I can't even remember now. It's such a long time ago.
I think Kiss a Gun Down was first, maybe.
Yeah.
No,
Strange
Strange
Kiss a Gun Down is from '92, and the other one is from '93.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, and another interesting thing about Strange Brew, Stefan, is that the artist that did the cover for that was the guy that did the Cream albums, the Disraeli Gears. Do you remember the cover on that one?
Yeah.
Well, and Wheels of Fire.
Yeah, and Wheels of Fire. A guy called Martin Sharp. He unfortunately died a few years ago, but we knew Martin, and he because because of the connection with Cream, because he used to live in a flat with Eric Clapton, so we asked him to do the cover, and he sort of referenced it to one of my images for Dog Trumpet, but did it in his style, so we were very happy with that.
Oh, that's great.
That's my phone going. Sorry about that. Just ignore it.
And the cover of this one was Kiss Ganda was made by you, of course.
Yeah, that's one of my paintings. Yeah.
It kind of ties in with fucking idiots in its anti-war theme.
Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah, it does.
How much do you paint these days?
Oh, I still pretty much every day. Well, I don't necessarily paint every day, but I certainly would draw or do some pen and ink draw, sort of, which is, I guess, kind of painting. But I mean, Peter's a more persistent painter than me. He would paint every day.
Pretty much.
Are you having any exhibitions right now?
I just had one recently, which was a collaboration with a guy called Glenn Smith, who is also a musician, and he specializes in, he's a graphic artist, and he does lots of record covers and posters for his own bands and other bands. And he suggested that we do a collaboration where I draw some of my images on linos, and then he carves them, and then printed them as lino cuts and some colored digital versions of the lino cuts. So that's a recent show that I've had, and Peter had a show just a few months ago.
So we keep pretty busy with that. I mean, I find with the the music, you try and balance your time up just between the two of them. But when we're making the records and I'm in the studio a lot, I tend to try and concentrate on the music, and that might go for weeks or over a period of months. But at the same time, it's it's the try and do a bit of both, and keep a bit of equilibrium going. But I often feel a bit guilty if I'm spending too much time painting, that I should be doing more music, and if I'm doing too much music, a little bit of guilt, I'm not spending enough time painting. So two sides of the one coin.
Does your painting influence the songwriting and vice versa?
For me, I definitely some of the subjects and themes that I cover in pictures also appear in songs, definitely.
Yeah, and I think you probably make art or music, in the same way as it's a kind of reflection of the way you think and your personality, and I think that you can see that in Reg's work, and the kind of songs that he would write are reflective of each other, from the visual to the audio. And the same with me. I think there's a sort of some sort of a feeling you get from the paintings that you might feel in the suggested in the music and the lyrics of the songs.
There was this wonderful book released a few years ago. I love it.
You've got hold of that too. Where did you find that?
I bought it from an online store in Australia.
Oh, right. Okay.
This is such a wonderful book with both your visual art and the music, and lots of fabulous paintings. And do you think there will be a volume 2 of this book?
I'm not sure. Maybe. I mean, I did another book which was just mainly of landscapes. I don't know, about five or 6 years ago. But yeah, I'm not sure I'll do another version of the biography type of book. That was a fairly big effort.
And Peter, do you think there will be a similar book for your art?
Probably not.
No, well, there might be.
I don't know. Oh, I'm not worried about it either way. But Reg has also had a different life as an artist, and sort of well known as a graphic artist as well, and through this work through Mambo, and so there's a different story in there, that to be told. So I'm more just straight sort of painting but look, I'm not worried about that either way. You just, whatever happens. You don't really plan for these things. They either come up or they don't.
Well, I hope there will be, because I like your art.
Oh, cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
When I did an email interview with you guys back in March, you mentioned that you were working on the Mental Something documentary.
Yep.
Yep.
What is the status about that one?
Well, we're still doing it. We're still you know, talking to Matt. Is it Walker?
Matt Walker.
He's the guy that's directing it, and so he's been interviewing us. We've done a few interviews already, like separately by ourselves and as a group, with me and Martin and Peter and me and Peter and Bird separately, because Martin and Bird don't get on.
He's been working on it for a long time, and I don't think there's any sort of particular you know, I mean, there's no sort of timeline on it at the moment. It's still in the stages of just, I think they're trying to get funding for it, so it still may be a fair way off, but hopefully in a way that's quite a good thing, because the longer he's got to work on it, probably the more interesting it will be, a little bit more comprehensive, and I think he's trying to make it you know, give it a feeling and make it less like a conventional rock biop, you know, more kind of quirky. I'm not sure. We're not sure how it's going to end up, but you know, anyway, he made a really good film called I'm Juanita, about an Australian woman country singer from Tamworth way who wanted to make a record in America, and she goes over to America and makes it, and she's a very interesting character, and the film is well worth having a look at, called I'm Juanita. It won a couple of film awards when it was in a couple of film festivals over the last year and a half. So he's an interesting filmmaker.
Someone's also writing a book about the Mentals, a guy called Stuart Lloyd, and again, that's, you know, we started talking to him. We haven't. That's nowhere near finished either.
All right, sounds like there's lots of good things for us fans to look forward to.
We'll see.
Well, yeah.
Speaking, you worked a lot for over 20 years with Martin and Greedy and Bird, and what are your favorite memories of them as persons and musicians from your time working together?
Well,
favorite memories are always hard to nail down. I mean, we had many great times with them. I mean, apart from the playing, because you know, because we were all art students. I mean, Peter wasn't an art student, but he obviously was an artist and was interested in art. So we had that in common, and we, you know, if we were touring, we would eat together every night, you know, and we'd be in the van or the car traveling every day, and so we got on pretty well, for considering that a lot of bands end up hating each other bitterly, and we managed to not do that, which I think was a good thing.
Yeah, and there was the usual underlying, you know, sort of undertow of tension that would be there between different people at different times, and that's kind of unavoidable, you know, especially when you spend so much time together. I mean, you know, especially those first few years, we were making, you know, virtually an album every year, which, you know, and touring relentlessly. We started touring in '79, and we never really stopped. So it's sort of hard to think how we actually fitted it all in back in those days, you know, touring, writing songs, recording, making film clips, and then back on the road all the time. So it was pretty frenetic, and you know, sort of compressed period, those first sort of 5, 6, 7 years. But it was great, you know. I mean, we were all young too, you know, and you had all that energy back then, and you didn't really sort of think about it in terms of the way we would think about it now. And now, you know, as we went through the years of playing together, I think we used to sort of put our foot down and say that, you know, if the management were trying to make us tour more than 2 or 3 weeks at a time, we'd be sort of starting to say no, when we won't do that. But in those first few years, we were doing 3-month tours of America, you know, and non-stop, and it's pretty grueling, you know, but it's great experience, and we were doing a lot of that stuff for the first time, seeing the world for the first time. So no, it's great, you know. We had a lot of good times together.
And it's great that you are in contact with both Martin and Bird, I think. I'm glad to hear that your friendship is still
Yeah.
intact.
Well, you know, we left the band, and then it was only after we left that that they sort of unraveled, and they kicked Bird out of the band, and he didn't like that. So then they ended up in litigation, and the courts, took over for a couple of years. So it's a real shame that happened, because they still, Martin still can't talk to Bird, and Greedy's gone now. So that's changed. But no, me and Reg, we get on with Bird and Martin really well.
That's great. What is Bird doing these days?
We actually we saw him a few weeks ago. We played at the at a memorial for a musician we know, a guy called Ron Blake, who was a bass player in a few Sydney bands, and it wasn't Dog Trumpet. It was a band called the Peters, which is a new band that Peter and I are playing with. It's called the Peters because 3 of the people in the band are called Peter, and and that was the first time we played at this memorial. We only played, I think 4 or 5 songs, but Bird was there, and he played with another band. He played 2 songs, and it's the first time I think he's played live for 2 or 3 years, because he had a big quadruple heart bypass about, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. So that's sort of meant that he can't really play too much again. So so that, I mean, but he still does art. He still paints and draws.
I'm glad to hear, and give him my regards, and tell him that he's got a fan in Sweden, and Martin as well, of course.
Yeah.
One final question.
It was
Pardon?
I was going to say, it was just good to see Bird play again. I hadn't seen him play for a long time, and he was playing really well.
Yeah, he played very well.
One final question. The first Mental of Painting album I got was this one, If You Leave Me, Can I Come Too, which is actually Cats and Dogs with different cover and different title. And obviously the record company was involved in changing the title and cover. What are your thoughts about that?
Well,
that happened.
No, that tended to happen. Once we started to leave Australia, then there was different compilations or versions of albums coming out, and it's like you just showed us that album, and I sort of had forgotten that even was an album cover. Where that was the single cover of I Didn't Mean to Be Mean, I think, wasn't it, Chris? Or maybe it wasn't.
I think it was, and Martin did that cover. Martin was that was one of Martin's paintings. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Mean to Be Mean cover, single cover. Yeah.
So no, it's funny what the versions that were released in Europe or America of some of those records, they were different. So you kind of forget that. With even probably the songs would be slightly different too. The sequence of songs on that record. To the Cats and Dogs that we released in Australia. I mean, Cats and Dogs in Australia it was a graphic cover that Martin did, which was really good. Very sort of eye-catching cover. So I mean, Martin was doing a fair bit of art all the way through that period, and we all were really. That's when I was just starting to do a bit more at that stage, and I hadn't even started painting until sort of into the 90s. So. But for me, joining the Mentals as a 19-year-old was great, because it was a band out of art school, so there was always that interest in art that we took with us everywhere we went. And if we were traveling the world, we'd often, we always go and see art galleries and museums, and check out what was on in different cities that we went to. So that was a great experience to be able to do that. I think that sort of kept there was another thing that sort of kept the glue together, that glued us together in the Mentals, was that common that common interest in art and music. And we were all young, and we all enjoyed, we enjoyed sort of, we had a good sense of humor about things, and we tended to send things up a lot too. And in a way, I don't know if that's been a strength or a weakness, or maybe a bit of both for the Mentals, that we did in a way tend to mock the world of rock and roll, the industry of music, which is pretty absurd anyway. I still think it is, but anyway, I'm just getting off track, just thinking about that stuff. Anyway.
Well, to me, it's a bit amazing that I received this album as a birthday gift in 1983, and your music has enriched my life so much for nearly 40 years. And so I just would like to quote to my countryman ABBA, thank you for the music and thank you for everything.
Well,
Oh,
thank you
well,
to Emma.
yes, no, and thank you for being such a good fan. You know, I mean, without fans, we'd just be playing to ourselves. So, you know, it's a two-way street in terms of art and music. You know, I mean, it's not. I mean, you do it because you want to, kind of for yourself, but it would be a lonely thing if no one else ever saw it or listened to it or appreciated it. So, thank you.
And thank you for taking the time to do
Did
this
you
Zoom interview.
Our pleasure.
Oh, look, my pleasure. Nice to talk to you.
And good luck with the album launch tomorrow and the upcoming tour. And thank you for a great album.
Oh, thank you very much, and we might see you in Sweden sometime.
I hope so. You're welcome.
If you got any plans to come to Australia, let us know, and we'll make sure we do a gig.
Oh, that sounds great. I will come back to Australia one day.
Okay.
When was the last time you were here?
1999. That was when I got this one in Melbourne.
Ah, right.
Right. Wow. 99.
Yeah. Long time ago.
Oh well. It is. It's the same but different. But come back. Come back.
I will. And thanks again for the interview.
No worries.
Okay, no worries. Thanks, Steph.
Yep.
Good
Talk to you
talk.
soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye later.
See ya.
Bye.